Hello?
Hey, Michael, it's Dennis from the Australian Rock Show. How are you?
Hi. Considering the circumstances, okay.
That's good. That's wonderful to hear. Look, wonderful to have you on the show today. And the purpose of our chat is the soon-to-be-released M.S.G album on Nuclear Blast titled Immortal. It's a wonderfully accurate album title. The word immortal very much describes you and your brand of loud rock and roll, doesn't it? Music that will never, ever die, music that lives forever.
You know, the fantastic thing about it is that Nuclear Blast, the company, the main company in Germany, which is owned by Markus Steiger, you know, he said to me one day, Michael, if he would have never been, Nuclear Blast would have never been, and he would have never become a thrash metal player. And I said, what? You know, and so, you know, most of the bands on Nuclear Blast are also Michael Schenker fans, and so knowing that Nuclear Blast, you know, the company, the what do you call it, the main company based in Germany, that they are actually Michael Schenker fans, and so they are the consumers. They have consumed my music, you know, for years and years and years, and they actually came up with the title, and I was so happy that they did it, because, you know, they look at it from their perspective as a fan, and like you just said in your introduction, you know, they feel the same, and so I'm very happy that they, and I actually agree, because you know, I was never part of a trend. If anything, I created a trend. People in the 80s copied my guitar style, etc., etc. You know, I'm just like a kid in a sandbox. I have always been in a sandbox, just like play and discover, enjoying myself, not competing, not comparing, not looking for fame, not looking for success or for money or for anything. I was just happy in that sandbox playing, and so I also discovered very early in life, around when I was 15 years old, you know, that why should I do what other people are doing? They're already doing it. There's no point in me doing the same thing. So, you know, I want to be Michael Schenker, you know. I actually discovered the inner infinite spring of creativity very early, and that's how I came up with stuff that was not known before, like Kirk Hammett told me, and James Hetfield, and you know, and so many fans, Slash and so on, that I never even knew about when I was you know, starting my whole development as a guitarist, and I found out all of these things so many years later, and every time I hear something like that, I go, what? You know, and it's just like shocking, because the funny thing is, if you just stay in your own zone and do what you believe in, you don't really look around, you know, what impact you have on other people or whatever. I mean, you know, that is a researcher's job, you know, not mine. I'm a creative guitarist, and so, you know, that's why, you know, all these informations we trickled in over years and years and years, and especially, and I'm grateful that it didn't disturb me in the beginning, but, you know, the thing is, what they heard, what I did, they knew, you know, in the 80s when they were copying me, they knew that that it was something different, and it was different because it was coming from a different source. If anything, I'm a trend maker. I don't. Many people just want to be part of the, like the 80s are basically watered down 70s, made commercialized, being sold by the business to the stereotype people, which where the money is, and so it was just something that was not my path, and but that's what happened, and when people run out of ideas, if everybody takes from the trend will die very quick if nothing new comes in. And the people who are my fans, they understood that what they never heard anything like that before, and I guess that's why they got so impressed by it, or why it had such an impact on them to be a fan, to copy what I did, etc., etc. And so, but that's the reason, because I take from within myself. I want to be Michael Schenker and not. Jeff Beck is already Jeff Beck. Why should I be Jeff Beck?
Sure. Well, 50 years as a professional musician. Congratulations. It is an incredible milestone. It really is. At what age do you think you felt the desire to make music your life journey? I guess, was that fire burning inside of you when you were in pre-Scorpions bands like the Enervates or Cry Express?
No, I was 3 years old. I was singing my head off, and I was playing cooking pots, drums. I loved drums when I was 5 years old, and I started playing the guitar when I was 9. Discovered the guitar, and right in the beginning, I realized that the single string was just amazing. If you put 3 notes together, you can create a chemistry of goose pimples, and I understood that, and I never stopped doing that, and so that's how I went on, making my it was a continuous line of development all the way up to today, and I always just put new chemistries together that have an effect and are different. I'm a Zeppelin fan, Ozzy Osbourne fan, and a Deep Purple, and Rory Gallagher, Johnny Winter, Leslie West, Jimmy Page, Beck, and all of these people. But they helped me to get started, and when I was 9 years old, I started to copy music from the radio. To teach my brother. He paid me for it. He understood that I was very talented, and he was working, and he had already had the Scorpions, but they were playing dance music. They never actually wrote any music until when I came and joined the Scorpions. Lonesome Crow, or actually when Klaus Meine and we were in a band called Copernicus, and we were copying our favorite bands, and then Rudolph, who is the guy who has this idea of finding out how he can get to what he wanted, which was he wanted to be Elvis Presley or Rolling Stones. He obviously wanted to be famous, but he needed somebody who does it for him, and that was me. And I was 7 years younger. And can you imagine a 3-year-old and a 10-year-old? Can you see the difference?
Sure.
Being 15 years old when I started Lonesome Crow, and did my very first musical composition, which was In Search of the Peace of Mind. I did it in my mother's kitchen all by myself. There was nobody there. Michael Voss, actually, but the Scorpions credited themselves for that song. Why? Michael Voss sent me the original credits for the Lonesome Crow Scorpions release, and it says Michael Schenker, Rudolf Schenker lyrics. I mean, we had zero knowledge of English. How could we have written any lyrics? Complete misinformation. And so it should have said music by Michael Schenker, and but because I was a kid and they were already grown-up business people and they wanted to have a piece of the pie of my talent, especially with a composition like In Search of the Peace of Mind, which is quite complex and for a 15-year-old. And plus there is a lead break in there that is so perfect I would never change a note in 1,000 years. I never knew where it came from. I was 15 years old. But you can hear on the rest on Lonesome Crow, Scorpions album, that I am, a kid developing. I'm an amateur. But where did this perfect lead break come from? Like Stairway to Heaven or the theme of the Imaginary Western. You would never change a note. And up to this day, when I hear that lead break on In Search of the Peace of Mind, I'm absolutely shocked, not understanding where it came from, because it was so different from the rest of what I did on Lonesome Crow.
Okay, I do want to go back to the mid-'60s, if I may. I do know that the Beatles were an early influence on yourself, yet there were many popular mid-'60s German outfits, such as the Rattles, the Lords, who were marketed as the German Beatles, and a band called the Rainbows. Did any of the local German bands have an influence on the very young Michael Schenker?
Of course, they helped me to start, I mean, like I said, I was actually asked by Rudolf to help him figure out some songs because they were a dance band, they were playing dance music, hit parade music, at their venues, and no self-written songs. And so Rudolf was working, and he asked me, Michael, here, can you, you have this talent, can you at the time, and can you, I was 9 years old when he asked me that. Actually 10, 11, over the years, and until I joined the Scorpions, and he paid me like a Deutschmark for each song I showed him, and so I kind of of course I was a absolute Beatle fan. The Rolling Stones were not so much my cup of tea. But they had great songs. Today, when I hear Painted Black, fantastic song, unbelievable, But I never, I also never had that much likeness towards Jimi Hendrix because it was not that style that I was interested in. I was more into Jeff Beck and Leslie West, like melodic stuff, and. But I discovered Jimi Hendrix much later. When how long the touch how long the what's it called something with tower
all along the Watchtower.
I mean, yeah. The lead break in there is
incredible.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I mean, everything, including the sound. It just sounds like it's coming from a different planet.
Yeah.
And so, but I didn't notice that then because of my own development, and you go step by step, and so different people discover different things later in life when they're ready for it, and so I basically I'm very grateful for all the help that I got. The inspiration, to get me going, to help me. I was pretty good in copying because that's what I did. And but until I was 15 years old, and then 16, 17, 18, and I finally, stopped and realized, why should I be those guys? They're already doing it, and I want to do something that comes from me, from the, and I discovered the inner spring, the inner infinite spring of creativity. And that's when everything clicked, and that's when I started coming out with something that people had not heard before. And they, the reports that I've heard later in my life, was like, it was so unusual what I did that they were fascinated by it and became fans.
Born to overcome, born to be free. Those words are tattooed on your arms. You've never followed trends and have forged your own path, finding self-contentment. Many musicians never find that. And, you have that in abundance.
Yeah, because I went to the inner spring. I didn't take from the trend. If everybody takes from the trend, the trend will die very quickly. But if you have a couple of people on this planet that go deep within themselves to express themselves, many people don't even have the confidence to express what they have to show because they expect to be accepted and loved and it being something, and so they take from the trend that it's already proven, that already sells, to the stereotype, and so they can get a piece of the pie. So it's a personal choice, to either go that way or to go and self-express. And fortunately, I had that natural flow of being creative if you look around, if you look at the tropical ocean, every fish has a different pattern. I mean, every fish looks different. And if you look in nature, even if you look at your pets, every dog has a different pattern, and they all. The creator of all creations is endless, is infinite. So I never get a mental writing block because I go to that place where it is infinite what you can come up with.
Love it. My favourite track on the new record could be After the Rain. In my opinion, if this song was released in the late 1980s when power ballads were reaching the top 10, After the Rain would have climbed the charts. It's that good. What can you tell us about After the Rain?
After the Rain, I was absolutely shocked, when I came back from the hotel after I had put down my backing tracks, and Michael Voss, who always writes, he's my co-producer in Germany, and has got his recording studio where we record, and he always writes a B plan for vocalists in case they get stuck, and need some help. And so he does some melodies and some lyrics, etc., etc. So one morning I came back from the hotel. The same happened to Warrior. It was phenomenal what he did with that. And he said to me, Michael, listen to this power ballad that you did, last night, and actually I never written a power ballad like that before. It was part of my compositions that popped up. I don't know where from, but it was there. And Michael first sang something to it. I said, Michael, this is so beautiful. Only you can sing this song. And I gave it to him, And then there was another song, which was a very unusual song. Well, I'll let you carry on asking questions, otherwise I get carried away.
No, that's okay. It's a fascinating journey. I love listening to you talk about how, each album has been created. And when I listen to a lot of people interview you, not a lot of people talk about the incredible album art or cover art. Case in point, I do wish to make mention of the wonderful cover art for Immortal, created by a talented artist named Zofia Dankova. If listeners haven't seen it, Michael is standing with his flying V on top of a rugged mountain, with a city below and lightning-filled sky. In the modern age where people seem to take album art for granted, this is superb, and I think it will be noticed and appreciated by older fans like myself who remember a time when album art was a crucial part of a record's release. So, superb cover art.
Yeah, I mean, that same painter did the Michael Schenker Fest, Resurrection and Revelation. Fantastic.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And it is a different era, but if you think back to an album like 1983's Built to Destroy, what was involved or how challenging was it to capture that moment where the flying V is crashing through the back window of the Mercedes?
that was actually a real story.
Yeah?
It was, yeah, because we just got together with a Graham Bonnet and a Cozy Powell, and we all put, it was the same time when Ozzy Osbourne was calling me up to help him with, like Randy Rhoads was a number one Michael Schenker fan, and he always talked about me, and so when he crashed and died, Ozzy called me in the middle of the night and asked me, please, can you help, and so, it all happened at the same time. I had to decline. I love Ozzy. I love you, Ozzy, but I at that point, I mean, I had to go my own way. Deep Purple asked me, Motorhead and Phil Lynott and all these different artists, and I had to decline all of them because of my middle years. I needed fulfillment. I needed to experiment. I did acoustic instrumentals, electric instrumentals. I did cover versions with phenomenal musicians, and then at some point, I in 2007 or 2008, I went back to being 16 years old and realized that I had completed my vision in my middle years that I did and needed to do for fulfillment, which stays in my heart today. Because if I never had done that, I would have not been in the same place I'm in today. And so just one more time, repeat the question so I just get a...
It was the photo shoot with the flying V smashing through the Mercedes. Was that a difficult photo?
Yeah. And so no, actually, anyway, that was a real story. It happened in the middle of the night. I had a problem with my girlfriend, and it just kind of, I let my anger out, by going outside on the street with the guitar and smashed it into my Mercedes and walked away. Actually, a police car followed me and said, like, hey, do you know what you just did? I said, yes, I just smashed my guitar, my guitar and my car, and they left. It was unbelievable, and so I thought it was kind of later. I thought, like, man, if we can capture this in a way, it would be a great album cover, and also actually the title is actually quite built to destroy. It's like the Buddhists do that. They build something, then they destroy it, and they build something again, and they destroy it. It seems like that's what humans do. They build and destroy.
We're running out of time. I do want to hit you with a couple of random ones before we finish up. I've always thought that Gary Barden is one of rock's greatest ever vocalists, and I do wish to make mention of the 2009 acoustic project you did with Gary titled Gypsy Lady. Just wonderful. Dance Little Gypsy in particular evokes some great images. Any plans to do further acoustic releases like that?
Well, I had an episode. I did so much acoustic stuff that and people were complaining about it because what's wrong with Michael? But I had the desire I all of a sudden heard that the reverb on the acoustic guitar and the single string and sounding romantic. I tell you, I agree with you so much. The Gypsy Lady is actually one of my favorite songs.
Really?
I mean, it's so beautiful.
I agree with you.
And what Gary did on the rest of that album was just amazing.
Well, there's I also wish to mention another beautiful instrumental. There's a beautiful instrumental called There Has to Be Another Way, which you cut back in '89 on the Save Yourself album with Robin McCauley. Your hardcore fans would know it, but not enough people have heard it. I think it's one of the most stunning composition which you've written, which is no small statement. There has to be another way.
Yeah, well, the title actually doesn't come from me, I don't think. And I actually never really do, well, lyrics anyway, but it's an instrumental. And I remember exactly where it was recorded. We were in Hanover, and it was in a rehearsal studio. And I had this idea, and actually, it was actually vocals on it, right?
Not that track. It's an instrumental.
Yeah, it's an instrumental. So it was like, because I think I remember hearing Robin singing, you know, there has to be another way, and so, but I guess maybe that was another version. I've done so much
things.
Music, but yeah. But that instrumental was just one of those instrumentals that I come up with.
Yeah.
And, you know, and usually they're sounding sweet and enchanting and very romantic.
Michael Schenker, we had better finish up. An absolute honour to chat with you today. MichaelSchenkerhimself.com. That is where old and new fans need to visit. The new album titled Immortal has a release date of January the 29th. I will give all of the ordering details at the end of this show. Before you go, mate, every guest on our show gets to choose a song by an Australian band. What would you like to choose and why?
Well, we never got that far in the interview that I never listened to music, you know, for 50 years. Actually, I mentioned it in the earlier. That's why I didn't know that Ralph Shippers actually existed. I mean, I don't know what's out there because I shield myself from being influenced by, you know, I never listen to the radio. When I sit in the car, I never listen to music. You know, I mean, the only thing I'm listening to is the news. I want to know what's going on around me, you know. But I have stopped becoming a music consumer very early in my life, and I'm so glad I did because it can overconsume you, you know, because you're hearing so much and too much of the same thing. If you're a consumer, it's great because a consumer has got its own pleasure and joy, you know. I sometimes I wish I could be a consumer, but it's not Michael Schenker. Michael Schenker is the one who is a creator, and so yeah, I have to make a very sharp cut in between, and that's why I was, you know, that's why I'm saying, like, Amy, my partner, is a bass player. She actually found, she's a very good taste, and she actually found Ralph Shippers for me because I don't know what's out there, and so I'm so sorry to tell you that I have no idea of what's out there until I was, you know, maybe the latest 17, 18 years old. Once in a while, something triggered in, like, that was outstanding and you couldn't run away from, like, for instance, in the 90s or maybe even 2000, around 2000, I was in a French boutique and I heard they played Metallica. The whole time I was putting on clothes, and that's when I learned, that's when I heard about that song, The Unforgiven. It's such a beautiful song, and I must say that I am convinced there is so much beautiful music out there in Australia and around the world. But I'm so sorry to tell you that I have no knowledge of it.
You don't have to apologize. We will close out with After the Rain because it's such a beautiful track. It's been absolutely lovely to chat with you this evening. I wish you all the very best for the rest of this year. Stay safe.
You too. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Keep on rocking. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.